From our studios in Scottsdale, Arizona, welcome back to Retirement News Online. So for successful families and business owners, generational succession planning is about continuity of wealth, leadership, and values. And it requires more than documents, it requires strategy and communication. And we're going to talk about that right now. Joshua Reaves from Atlanta, Georgia, and Tim McCarty in Lexington, South Carolina, both with Swarm Financial. So let's talk about business owners in this particular case. That's a good aspect of generational planning. How do you align a family's goals over generations with heirs and all this stuff and all the emotion that comes with this? I'll start with you.
Well, that's a really important question, actually. And it's really important to help people remove the emotional aspect, and I know that's hard to do. But we do that by revisiting their objectives. We talk about any past experiences that they've had that have influenced decisions, right or wrong, because I think that helps to anchor the conversation and helps to remove some of the emotional aspects out of it. Let's face it, there are family dynamics at play, and there's always going to be challenges to that. We deal with that all the time. It's a fear for especially people who own businesses, or even if they're just talking about the wealth that they've accumulated and how do they distribute that to their heirs. We really have to kind of help them get the emotions out of it and start to look at it from a logical, methodical standpoint. And then talk about taxation and the risks associated with how do you manage that as you bequeath that, and what are the implications of that?
You mentioned tax planning. I'm going to talk with you, Tim, about that. So succession planning, selling a business, that's a taxable event, right? And this is something that has to be considered. Do you find that a lot of business owners have done an effective job with tax planning leading up to this conversation?
Most have not. Most have ignored this. It's something that they kick down the road. It's going to happen. They're going to get to it, but they never do. I think it's a matter of finding the right person and the right fit. If you don't have the right advisor, you're not going to have someone to point you in that direction.
Well, how do you know if you have the right advisor, though?
Well, I think an advisor that's going to challenge you and challenge what you're thinking is important. We all come with our own assumptions and biases about things, so you can't be afraid to be challenged. And I think if you are, you need to really ask yourself, why am I afraid to hear a hard truth?
Sure.
Right? Because that is really where you can start to, put some of the emotional aspects out of it and really start to focus on, practical, logical ways to sort of address any number of, risk associated with, leaving, any wealth that you've accumulated or a business that you've built that you want to pass to your heirs. So you have to really kind of, think about it like that.
And, Tim, so a business, that's an emotional asset. They put their lives into it. They work so hard to build this thing, and then it comes down to, how do we preserve it? How do we, pass it on to the next generation? Let's talk about life insurance and how you leverage that, because I don't think a lot of business owners, even watching this, think life insurance is that important.
Life insurance is, people typically think that it's a death benefit is involved. That's it. It's the only thing you can do with it. Sitting down with the right advisor, explaining to you what you can do with life insurance is terribly important. Life insurance is a very effective tool in mitigating the tax liability that the next generation will have.
And then, Josh, too, life insurance sort of in the beginning, when you're talking about business continuation, for example, the owner has a life event, maybe gets sick or something like that. We want to make sure that if they've got a lot of employees, and if there's a time when he can't operate things, I guess it's important to have some sort of life insurance in there so that we can make sure that everybody gets paid and the business continues.
Yeah, it can be used as a capital infusion to continue your business as you transition that to someone else. It also can be used to pay any taxes for the sale of the business as another means for it, and that's tax-free income to who is receiving it. But it can help to offset the taxes that are having to be paid when you actually go to sell the business. So a lot of times people think about they want to leave stuff for their kids or their grandkids, right? I mean, and that's a very admirable thing to do. But there are ways to do that strategically, and there are ways to really kind of do that where you don't have to have such a big tax burden on the back end of that. Life insurance can be a way to kind of help mitigate that.
And then finally, too, I guess the best time to start succession planning is when you start the business. But as the kids get older, if that's the play, when is the best time to have these conversations?
I think the best time to start these conversations would probably be when the kids are mid-late 20s. I mean, by this point, they know mom and dad own a business. They know what it entails. They know whether or not they were looking to go to follow in those shoes or not. Starting early is the key. And as everyone gets older, as mom and dad gets older, as the children get older, you have to sit down constantly and kind of reevaluate where you are and what your goals are. What does the future look like? Because it changes constantly. So revisiting a plan is vital to make sure that your wishes are carried out and things are taken care of as you'd like them to be.
This is a common theme in these conversations, everybody. You should have a plan in place. I mean, at all levels of retirement and business ownership and succession planning. And these are the guys to talk to. Tim McCarty, Josh Reaves, Swarm Financial. If you'd like to learn more about Retirement News Online, you can visit us at retirementnewsonline.com. Thank you for watching.